ignore important.
Hello and welcome to the West Asia Post. I am Radi Francis, coming to you for a new episode of WION's weekly show where we bring you all the news flashpoints from West Asia. In Gaza, the lines are hardening, the blockade is still persistent, and fears are growing from a de facto partition. In Saudi Arabia, executions are on the rise, and bearing the brunt are the foreign workers. Rights groups are calling it a system in the shadow. And in Iran, the capital city is facing its limit with water shortages and more. All this is lined up, but first, the headlines. The clock is ticking in West Asia. Tehran has delivered a new threat to the West, raising the stakes once again. Iran has unveiled a new ICBM that can reportedly reach the United States. And the IRGC, on the other hand, showcased the newest Shahed drones. Take a look at this report.
Tehran just pulled the trigger on a new arms race. Iran has unveiled an intercontinental ballistic missile with a staggering range of 10,000 kilometers, enough, it claims, to strike the continental United States. Iranian military commanders declared it a strategic deterrent, a message aimed straight at Washington and Tel Aviv. According to reports, the missile can carry multiple warheads and is guided by an improved propulsion system, making interception harder than ever. Several analysts say, even if the range claim is exaggerated, the optics are powerful. Iran is declaring itself a global missile power. The announcement came days after the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps showcased a new generation of Shahed drones. These drones have reshaped battlefields in Ukraine. The upgraded model reportedly carries advanced sensors and improved stealth coding, capable of operating at altitudes up to 26,000 feet. Along with their new drones, there were several other missiles on display in Tehran.
I can say that the 12-day war was a very good platform for testing systems, even the ones that were old. For example, I heard news that they were using old missiles instead of using Khyber Shekan or Sajil. It was a very good platform for testing and developing systems. This equipment, what we see here, is maybe less than a third of it is real military. Even if our guys come forward with all their might, God willing, they will undoubtedly wipe out the enemy from the face of the earth.
On the other hand, the International Atomic Energy Agency has urged Tehran to comply with its nuclear obligations to allay international concerns. But Tehran insists its intentions are defensive. President Masoud Pezeshkian said Iran seeks peace, not provocation. As tension simmers in West Asia, this display of strength is more than symbolism. It tells the world that Iran's era of long-range deterrence has begun one missile at a time.
Fears of a de facto partition are growing in Gaza. There's Hamas on one side, Israel on the other, and it looks like Trump's plan is faltering. Now, the UN recently said that syringes, baby bottles, everything is being blocked by Israel. The next report brings you the details.
Gaza is being pushed towards a de facto partition. What was meant to be a ceasefire under Donald Trump's plan is turning into something else entirely. A new border of yellow cement blocks, a new military line that Israel has fortified, and a political void that nobody is willing to fill. The next phase of peace plan is stalled and there is no timeline. No force ready to deploy, no agreement on who should govern Gaza, and until that changes, the territory may be split for years. Right now, Israel controls about 53% of Gaza. The farmland, Rafah, parts of Gaza City, sections of urban belt. The other half under Hamas is a patchwork of tents, debris, makeshift roads, and endless human struggle. About 2 million Palestinians live here, displaced inside their own land. A people surviving barely on rations, water trucks, and flashlights. A population that is exhausted, malnourished, and still waiting for the power to come back. In the Nusayrat refugee camp, a mother feeds her 3 children by flashlight. Her family has been without electricity for more than 2 years. Their only source of light was a candle, until even that felt too dangerous in a tent. Electricity used to flow from Israel and a small local power plant. But days after October 7, 2023, a total siege by Israel shut everything down.
It's been 2 years without electricity. We have not seen it. In Rafah, during our first displacement, we tried to light a candle, but we stopped for the sake of the children, fearing it could burn the tent.
With Israel strangling all supply lines, the power station ran out of fuel and Gaza went dark. Even after the ceasefire, rebuilding the grid is close to impossible. Aid agencies say they cannot even get basic supplies in. UNICEF says 1.6 million syringes, solar fridges for vaccines, nearly 1 million bottles of infant formula, all are being blocked. But Israel denies this claim. The items are still sitting outside the border, while UNICEF races to immunize 40,000 children against polio, measles, and pneumonia.
This morning I highlighted the fact that our shortfall between now and the end of the first quarter is $200 million. Previous year, when we reached December, we say, well, we just have to bridge December, and in January we will have the new contribution of the new year. But this contribution at the beginning of the year used to be the US contribution that we don't have.
I have barely received any aid since February this year. I live in the Sabra neighborhood in Gaza City, where access to fresh water is extremely difficult. Even partially filtered salty water for showering has only been available for just 2 days.
All of this war-induced catastrophe against the backdrop of a political vacuum. Hamas refuses to disarm. Israel refuses any role for the Palestinian Authority in Gaza's governance. Europe and the Arab world refuse to send troops without a clear mandate. And America's own resolution for a multinational force has few takers. So the plan stays frozen, and the yellow line on the ground begins to look more and more like a permanent border. US officials including J.D. Vance and Jared Kushner have floated a new idea: rebuild parts of Gaza only in the Israel-controlled zone. Create model areas and start development there first. Critics say it risks making the partition permanent and solidifying Israeli control on Palestinian land. Arab states insist Gaza cannot be cut apart. The Palestinian Authority says it is ready to govern, but Israel says no. On the ground, the fear is simple and deep: that Palestinians on their own homeland will be forced by external stakeholders to choose which side of the line they live on.
A hardened Hezbollah faces the United States once again, refusing to hand its weapons. Israel says that Hezbollah is rebuilding its power, and Beirut replies saying it is Israel that is breaching the ceasefire deal. We tell you more.
Hezbollah has issued one of its sharpest warnings yet, declaring that the group will not relinquish its weapons and accusing US of trying to force Lebanon into one-sided concessions to Israel. Hezbollah leader Naim Qassem said, "We will not give up our weapons. The government's role is not to listen to American diktats." This comes as a high-level US Treasury delegation visited Beirut, warning officials that Washington is very serious about cutting off Iranian funding to Hezbollah. According to US assessments, Tehran has transferred more than $1 billion to the group this year alone. A Lebanese official told AFP the message was clear and firm. It is time to choke Hezbollah's funding, but Hezbollah, still shaped by last year's war with Israel that killed Hassan Nasrallah and decimated much of its arsenal, says disarmament is non-negotiable. The group insists its weapons are a shield against Israeli aggression. Israel is turning up its own pressure. IDF accused Hezbollah of operating south of the Litani River. Israel says the group is attempting to smuggle weapons from Syria and rebuild its strike capability, and that Israeli forces are carrying out targeted strikes to stop it. But Beirut says the opposite. President Joseph Aoun and Prime Minister Nawaf Salam accuse Israel of breaking the truce, pointing to ongoing airstrikes, the ground incursions and Israel's occupation of 5 strategic hilltops in the south. Lebanese security officials say Hezbollah has not fired on Israel since the ceasefire and has not interfered with army operations to locate illegal weapons. But disarming the group completely is proving to be far more challenging. The Lebanese army says it can declare the south Hezbollah free by the end of 2025, but refuses to search private homes, warning that could reignite civil strife. Yet the United States is pushing harder. American officials have offered support to Lebanon's military to implement a US-backed disarmament plan announced in August. President Aoun told the US delegation that Washington must also press Israel to stop its continuous assaults, especially after a wave of heavy airstrikes last week, some of the most intense since the truce began. And with Hezbollah refusing to hand over its arms, US warned that the Lebanese government is struggling to seize the group's weapons.
A stark warning from inside Saudi Arabia's justice system. Hundreds of foreign workers are facing executions over non-violent drug crimes. Rights groups are pulling the siren, and they are saying that a full, relentless execution system is back in force. Listen in.
Across Saudi Arabia, numbers tell a grim story. A moratorium in 2021 on drug-related executions once held the promise of change, a sign that the kingdom might be rewriting its harsher laws. But that pause ended in 2022, and what followed was not a return to the old system, it was an escalation. According to data shared by Reprieve since early 2024, at least 264 foreign nationals have been executed for non-violent drug crimes. Men from Egypt, Pakistan, Syria, Sudan, migrant workers who travel to Saudi Arabia hoping for work, not knowing they would enter a system where poverty can become a death sentence. Human rights groups say many of these executions are built on forced confessions. Men held for days, beaten until they sign papers they can't read. Most never see a proper lawyer. Fair trials are out of reach for people who arrive with little money and even less protection. With moratorium gone, the executions are no longer rare. They have become routine, happening quietly, quickly, and away from public view. Some families are told after the execution is done. Others receive only a certificate. No body, no explanation, no last goodbye. In prisons across the country, including the notorious facility in Tabuk, foreign inmates wait in fear of the next round of names. It is a process rights groups describe as mechanical, unfeeling, and designed to break hope. Outside the prison walls, families live their own nightmare. Mothers and sisters who follow every rumor, every whisper, every phone call that might mean their loved one is still alive. Their only support is a patchwork of WhatsApp groups, digital rooms filled with fear, prayers, and fragile updates. The people on death row are not cartel heads or international criminals. They are migrant workers, fishers, porters, and laborers, often pushed into carrying packages for a few $100s, sometimes without knowing what they were holding. For many, their poverty made them targets long before their arrest. Today, Saudi Arabia stands as one of the world's top executioners, surpassed only by China and Iran. And with the current surge, rights groups warn the numbers could climb even higher. As the kingdom pushes a modern image to the world, new cities, new investments, a prison tells a different story, a darker story.
The nations in West Asia seem to be racing to empower their air forces. Last week we spoke about Saudi Arabia seeking F-35 jets from the United States of America, and this week we will speak about Turkey. Turkey is also one more time seeking empowering its air force. This time it has signed a multi-billion-pound deal with the United Kingdom in order to obtain the Eurofighter Typhoon jets. Now, why is Ankara in full force for that? And what are the gains, the pros and the cons? We tell you.
Turkey has secured a landmark defense deal with the United Kingdom. 20 brand new Eurofighter Typhoon 4 jets, backed by a package worth up to £8 billion. Britain calls it a boost for its defense industry, a contract safeguarding thousands of jobs. But in Ankara, the initial price tag sparked a fierce debate. Early estimates suggested each aircraft could cost as much as 4 times its base value, leading to accusations that Turkey was paying far too much. Yet days later, the Turkish Defense Ministry revealed a different figure, £5.4 billion, a sum that also includes advanced weapons, equipment and full life cycle support. And that's where the story gets more complex. Because this deal is much more than 20 airframes. It is a package filled with high-end munitions, like the Meteor air-to-air missile and the Brimstone strike weapon, systems that can change the math of modern air warfare. Experts point out that this is not a simple purchase. Life cycle support, spare parts, simulators, training and contractor backing form the bulk of the bill, crucial elements that guarantee readiness for years. And Turkey is not waiting until 2030 for its first jets. Through a different arrangement, London has facilitated the transfer of 24 slightly used Typhoons from Qatar and Oman, with the first arrivals expected as early as 2026. This is a response to a strategic dilemma years in the making. After Turkey was removed from the F-35 program for buying Russian S-400 missile defense systems, Ankara faced a dangerous gap in its air power. Greece, meanwhile, raced ahead, upgrading its F-16s and purchasing Rafale F-3R fighters, with F-35 deliveries expected in 2028. For years, this shift in balance posed a serious risk. Now the Eurofighter deal alters that equation. With 24 used Typhoons soon arriving and 20 Tranche 4 jets to follow, Turkey will field a fleet that can match and eventually surpass Greece's Rafale force. But the real game may be in what comes after. Ankara believes this deal opens the doors to long-term defense collaboration with the UK, technology access, joint projects and possible intellectual property sharing. A strategic partnership that can boost the indigenous Kaan stealth fighter and help secure Turkey's return to the top tier of aerospace powers. As Greece awaits its F-35s and Turkey pushes to bring the Kaan into service, the Eurofighter Typhoon becomes the bridge, a critical, powerful interim force that keeps Ankara competitive in a rapidly shifting regional sky. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
The water shortages seem to be a problem for all West Asia. In Iraq, in Syria, in Turkey, but now we will speak about Tehran. The capital of Iran, the city of 10 million, is facing the water shortages. Even evacuations are now in place. Dams are broken, with summers over 50 degrees. This seems like an exacerbating issue. The next report brings you the story.
Iran is grappling with one of its worst water crises in modern history, and this time, even the government is sounding the alarm. Officials say Tehran could face citywide rationing within weeks, and if the skies don't open by next month, an evacuation of the capital may even be on the table. Experts say that's a last resort, but the warning itself reveals how dire the situation has become.
We've run short of water. If it doesn't rain, we in Tehran, in the Iranian month of Azar, which begins on November 22nd, must start rationing. Still, it's not clear. Even if we do ration, and it still doesn't rain, then we'll have no water at all. The citizens must evacuate Tehran.
For 6 consecutive years, Iran has been hit by relentless drought. This summer alone, temperatures surpassed 50 degrees Celsius. The last water year was one of the driest ever, and the new one is already off to a worse start with rainfall down over 80%. Across the country, 19 dams are at less than 5% capacity. Even the 5 major dams that keep Tehran supplied are nearly empty, some at just a fraction of their normal levels. Images from the Karaj Reservoir show parts of the lake, so shallow that people can simply walk through it. The government says rationing will begin immediately, including complete shutdowns of water supply at night. Many residents say that's already been happening for months without any warning. But officials are pointing to everything from infrastructure damage to soaring urban demand, even urging people to buy storage tanks to get through the coming weeks.
The water situation is in crisis, especially now that we're in the 6th year of drought. And just as television and various outlets are announcing that we should save water, it's clear that this crisis is very serious and that we must somehow get through it.
But household use is only a small part of the story. Less than 10% of Iran's water goes to homes, more than 90% is consumed by agriculture, and much of that system is aged, leaky, and inefficient, with nearly a third of all produce lost before it even reaches markets. Yet successive governments have been unable to reduce that share, fearing a backlash from rural communities that depend on farming, especially in an economy hit hard by sanctions. Decades of aggressive dam building, excessive well drilling, and poor planning have left Iran water bankrupt. Groundwater reserves have been overdrawn so badly that entire regions from Isfahan to Sistan and Baluchistan are seeing land sink, ecosystems collapse, and communities displaced. Experts say what Iran needs now, they say, is a complete overhaul like reviving aquifers, restoring rivers, reforming agriculture, updating aging infrastructure, and sharing data openly with communities that are bearing the brunt of the crisis. But these measures take years and require political will that many believe is still missing.
That's all we have for you on this episode of the West Asia Post. I will see you next week with a brand new lineup, always bringing you the most recent updates, news, and ground reports from the world's most volatile region. I'm your host, Radi Francis, signing off from Beirut, Lebanon. For more global news, keep on watching WION World is One.
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at WION.